Hey guys, we are back. I am going to finish up this article. And like I said, this has been one of the best written and most thorough articles. So definitely great job, the intelligencers or the intelligencer. I'm not quite sure, but definitely they have done a lot of research and a lot of kind of collating a bunch of disparate articles together, making it easier to kind of give you a rundown of the entire case in, almost 2 hours with a lot of details, so good job. Um, as you can see, Loki is in the background. It's a hard life. It's a hard life being a fat cat in a house with constant shenanigans, if you will. So let us continue because we do have about maybe I'd say 20 more minutes of this article. So I want to get that done before I start streaming with Baker today. We are in day 2 of the Daryl or I'm sorry, the Darren Ruben Lopez case down in Texas, and we will be piggybacking off of each other to get those watch hours in and hopefully give you guys good entertainment. So be there or be square. Okay, so this is back to the article. Cell phone data, which proved critical to tracking Hierman down, paints a chilling, detailed portrait. According to court documents made public on Friday, Rex Heuermann faces both first and second degree murder charges over the deaths of Melissa Bartholomé, Amber Lynn Costello, and Megan Waterman in 2009 to 2010. He's also the prime suspect in the 2007 murder of Maureen Brainerd Barnes. All four women were described as Craigslist workers, if you will, who had, quote, had contact shortly before their disappearances with a person using a burner cell phone. They were found in close proximity to one another, similarly positioned and bound. After a new push to review evidence from the case last year, investigators were able to zero in on Heuermann as the main suspect after finding a vehicle an eyewitness had seen at the home of one of the victims the day before her disappearance. Now, I will say if you want maybe a more detailed, sort of look at the cell phone information that they do have with graphics to kind of explain it a little better, please go to my video where I go over the bail application or kind of why he shouldn't be given bail. It almost reads like a probable cause affidavit, so I don't know if in New York they, use that in lieu of, or they just haven't, released the probable cause affidavit, but it really goes a long way into kind of explaining what they have on this particular gentleman, and it has graphics, it has kind of infographics and things. It really explains it a lot better than I think this short little excerpt will. So please go look at that video if you would like. I am trying to keep you guys up to date, but I do like to cross-reference different videos if you want to get a little bit deeper, and I have made a video about it. After a new push to review evidence from the case last year, investigators were able to zero in on Heuermann as the main suspect after finding a vehicle an eyewitness had seen. Um, okay, I'm sorry, near the at the home of one of the victims the day before her disappearance. A first generation Chevrolet Avalanche was registered at the time of the murders to a Long Island resident who match the physical description a witness had given of a man seen at the same victim's home attempting to solicit her. Investigators then subpoenaed cell phone data, allowing them to link the man to the calls made to and from the victim's phones. They're both Heuermann's home in Massapequa Park and his office in Midtown Manhattan. The woman's own cell phone provided ominous clues to their fate: a final cell tower ping near Heuermann's residence, a voicemail check by the expressway, and taunting calls to one of the victim's family members using her own cell phone near Heuermann's office. Here's how the bail application filed Friday by prosecutors detailed cell phone data related to victim Melissa Bartholomé. On July 3rd, 2009. Sorry, I was like 2009. It takes a minute. Miss Bartholomew was contacted by a burner cell phone. Thereafter, the Bartholomew cell phone was contacted by this burner cell phone on July 6th, July 9th, and July 10th, 2009, which was the last day she was seen alive. On, two, on July 10th, 2009, cell site records indicate the burner phone traveled from Massapequa Park to Midtown Manhattan. Later that evening, the Bartholomew cell phone traveled from Midtown Manhattan to Massapequa, with the last cell site location being in Massapequa on July 11th, 2009, at approximately 1:43 a.m. On July 11th, 2009, Miss Bartholomew's cell phone was used to make an outbound call checking her voicemail from a cell site location in Freeport. On July 11th and 12th, 2009, the Bartholomew phone made two more outbound calls checking her voicemail from cell site locations in Babylon. On July 17th, 23rd, August 5th, August 19th, and August 26th, 2009, the Bartholomew phone made taunting phone calls to Miss Bartholomew's family members, some of which resulted in a conversation between the caller, who was male, and a relative of Melissa Bartholomew, in which the male caller admitted killing and sexually, you know, bad things Miss Bartholomew. The cell site locations of the Bartholomew phone during these taunting calls were all in Midtown Manhattan. Quote, "Do you think you'll ever speak to her again?" The caller asked Bartholomew's teenage sister in a bland, calm voice during one of those calls in July 2009. And can I tell you what a look, not only are you a giant douche for cheating on your wife, unaliving people allegedly, and, you know, all the other terrible and tawdry things that apparently you have allegedly been up to. But then to taunt the family like an absolute d-hole, sir, you better get right with Jesus because he's gonna have lots of talking to do with you if allegedly you did all of this. According to the New York Times, and quote, "When she told the caller that she hoped to talk to her sister again, he replied that he had unalived her after doing certain things with her," end quote, then hung up. Investigators said in their court filing that Google data revealed Heuermann had repeatedly sought news about the case, such as searches for, quote, "Why could law enforcement not trace calls made by the Long Island serial killer?" The articles including 8 terrifying active serial killers we can't find. He allegedly sought out podcasts about the murders as well as photos of the victims' families. Prosecutors have evidence that the alleged killer conducted, quote, "thousands of searches related to Craigslist workers, terrible things, including children." Again, my bail report video has that. You can read those. I chose not to read off those searches. They were gross, they were disgusting. And just for that, like, wood chippers at the ready, y'all. I have no tolerance anymore. You fiddle with kids, we there's a line in the sand. I thought that that was a kind of society-wide thing, but apparently there are pockets of society that don't agree with me, and, we call those, um well, listen, we're not gonna get into it here, but, yeah, that's my line in the sand, including terrible things involving 10 to 13-year-old girls. Like I said, you can look this up. It is the internet, so you can look these things up and you can find them if you would like to, but it's gross. It's gross, it's disgusting. I'm gonna give you a warning if you go look it up. You're gonna need, like, soul bleach just to get you're gonna have to sage your whole self, possibly your computer. I wouldn't do it, but I'm not your mom, I'm not gonna tell you what to do. With Heuermann in their sights, investigators sought a DNA sample from his trash, eventually recovering the crust in a pizza box. This is how you know he's evil. Allegedly, he did not finish the crust. As a person who's trying to do low carb, can I tell you that crust would have been gone like a pack of wild hyenas was on it, to be very honest with you, if I was gonna eat a real good New York pizza, but that's just me. They will allegedly never find my DNA because all that pizza would have been gone. They'd have been SOL. He threw away in Manhattan and comparing the DNA found on it to DNA from a piece of hair recovered from one of the victims' bodies. And the bail application form or what have you goes into a lot of detail about the DNA. Again, they don't have, the nuclear DNA, on a lot of things, hairs without, roots or the root bulb on it and or, DNA that's been degraded. They were able to go and use mitochondrial DNA to, kind of class these hair into phenotypes. It goes a lot more into it in the bail thing, so I would recommend you go look there. Who is the suspect? Rex Heuermann. Rex Heuermann, 59, was arrested in Midtown Manhattan on Thursday night. He is a married father of 2 who lived with his family in Massapequa Park on Long Island. He's huge enormous. I mean, let's see if I can play this without the sound, just in case there's any mute. Look, I don't know, TikTok, but this man is huge. On a serious note, the fear and terror that these women, these poor women must have felt knowing there was no way they could fight back. I mean, he's huge. He is huge. The amount of power that he would be able to exert, and I'm sure allegedly, if he is a sexual sadist or someone who does indulge in these sort of, terror-based fetishes or whatever you call them, fantasies, I can only imagine that their last minutes were just terrifying, and I hope with all my heart that they found peace, that they were, you know, they didn't suffer at all. I hope for their families, for themselves. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna go into that. Heuermann, an architect, is the founder of RH Consultants and Associates Incorporated, a Manhattan-based architectural firm that has worked with the city agencies and other clients such as the Catholic Charities and American Airlines. A 2002 interview with Heuermann about his life and experiences as an architect can be found on YouTube. Interesting. In a clip, he describes himself as someone born and raised on Long Island who has been working as an architect in Manhattan since 1987. PIX 11 News spoke to Damien Richard, an employee of Heuermann's who was hired in 2020. He was taken aback by the news that his boss had been arrested in connection with the brutal crimes. Uh, Governor Kathy Hochul had to get into it. Like, this is the thing that I don't like. All these politicians come out of the woodwork like, we did a great job. Okay. But, it's Twitter, it's politics, it's all dirty and tawdry. Quote, shocked, total shock. At first, the shock of hearing this, then obviously the next thing that comes to my mind, what happens to my job, my family, end quote, Richard told the network. Of his boss's personal nature, he added, quote, I never witnessed him be violent, but he gets aggravated. This industry is a roller coaster ride, end quote. And I love this beach looks like the setting of so many gothic novels. I love it. And the fact that it's had to be tainted by this guy allegedly using it as a drop-off point is upsetting. How the case began. In 2010, authorities were searching for Shannon Gilbert, a 23-year-old New Jersey woman who had gone missing on Long Island. When they discovered the bodies of 4 women in burlap sack 50 feet from each other near a parkway at Gilgo Beach on Jones Beach Island, a barrier island on the South Shore. All 4 women, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, 25, Melissa Bartholomew, 24, Amber Lynn Costello, 27, and Megan Waterman, 22, were later determined to have been strangled to death. Now, this is sort of a departure from what the police have been saying in their investigation, because all they will commit to is homicidal violence, because the remains were out in the elements for so long. So I don't know if they've got different, information they're using, maybe they've got an inside source, but from all of the press conferences that I have seen thus far, they have just said homicidal violence and not gone into it. Again, it could be that this is something that they were holding back, that shouldn't have been published or what have you. Gilbert's body was eventually found in 2011, as were the remains of another 4 people across the remote area between 2010 and 2011, including 2 more women, a man, and a female toddler. It's still not clear if or how some or all of these cases may be linked, but police have long believed that some were the work of a single serial killer. Gilbert's death, which was never ruled a homicide, was later deemed by law enforcement to be unconnected to the murders of the so called Gilgo Four, though Gilbert's family members continue to believe the cases are connected. At the time of their deaths, all 5 women were working as Craigslist workers. In 2011, New York spoke to the relatives of the 5 women about their quest to find justice for their loved ones. Maureen Brainerd Barnes' sister Melissa Can says the police have failed to take her sister's case seriously. Beginning with the first officer she spoke to, quote, "As soon as I told him what she was doing up in Manhattan, it was like he didn't care," end quote. She speaks of the fruitless trips her husband and brother took to New York to try to find Maureen themselves, the 2.5 years it took to get Maureen's name onto the National Registry of Missing Persons. She tells me she got her sister's emails, texts, and phone records herself, trying to retrace Maureen's steps. Quote, "I've been driving myself crazy for 4 years trying to figure out what happened to my sister," she says. "I drove myself to the point where I didn't want to get up in the morning to brush my teeth. I didn't want to go to sleep. I just wanted to figure out where my sister was. I got fired from my job. I was like, I can't find another job, but I can't find another sister. I can find another job, but I can't find another sister. Going on with my life, felt guilty," end quote. We can get caught up. I'm glad they ended with this because we can get caught up sort of in like the salacious nature, the headlines. What have they found next? What is this going on? What is that going on? And I think sometimes we really, really forget the human cost. And I'm not saying this as just a true crime aficionado, but as a person, it's easy to forget uh, the victims' families. It's easy to forget the family of the killer who had nothing, alleged killer, sorry, who had no idea what was going on. You know, this these events shatter lives, and I hope that I can be respectful. I know I add a little quippy things, but at the end of the day, these families have been destroyed, both on the alleged defendant's side and especially on the victim's side. And hopefully, this quest for justice will help give these families peace, a little bit of peace. It's never going to bring their family member back. It's never going to glue their life back before their family member was accused. But some measure of justice can be a balm to the soul. Measure of justice. I mean, we don't get a lot on here on this earth, regardless of if you are, Christian or religious or, you know, whatever you believe. What I believe is, look, we are only going to get an imperfect or a partial justice on this earth. It's a broken world, but hopefully, until they can meet with their family members in heaven or whatever you believe, or they can just lay and rest. These victims can now just rest easy, knowing that their family members have that little bit more peace. I really hope that that's what's going on. I really hope that, egos will be put aside. This case will be done by the book. We won't have some crazy prosecutor trying to make a name for himself. This won't become you know, any more of a crazy bombshell thing that it is. And people that choose to cover this really give the respect it deserves, at least for the victims. And like I said, it's a little hypocritical coming from me when I'm, making a video about this, but I do try to, at least for the most part, in my non-funny videos, try to be as respectful and really with a mom's heart look at these things as if this was my family. So, on that note, have a wonderful day. Try to be kind, try to do something difficult. It can be a small thing. I am doing standing desk time, to work on my stamina for standing up with my leg. So, do one difficult thing today. Make yourself just a little bit better, and I will see you in a little bit to do the Darren Rubin Lopez case with Baker. So join me there.